everyone thinks they understand Walter White. He wanted money, then he wanted power, then his ego took over. That's the most common interpretation of Breaking Bad. There is just one problem. It doesn't explain the story, because Walter White had countless chances to stop. When Elliot and Gretchen offered to pay for his treatment, when he earned enough money to support his family, after Gustavo Fring was dead, even after he had more cash than he could ever spend, every time the story gave him an exit, he refused to take it. So here is the real question. If money wasn't enough, what exactly was Walter chasing? The answer begins much earlier than Heisenberg. Before the mess, before the cancer, before the hat, Walter is introduced as a brilliant man living a life that feels far smaller than his potential. He is a chemistry genius teaching bored teenagers. He works at a car wash after school. One of his own students watches him wash cars. The scene lasts only a moment, but it tells us something important. Walter doesn't just feel poor, he feels invisible. Then we meet Elliot and Gretchen, the founders of Grey Matter, people who now live the life Walter could have had. The show never tells us every detail of what happened, and honestly, it doesn't matter. Because what matters isn't history, it's how Walter sees it. To him, Grey Matter represents the life he lost, which makes one scene incredibly strange. Elliot offers to pay for his treatment. If Walter's goal is really to save his family, the story should end here. No crime, no mess, no death. Instead, he refuses, not because the money isn't enough, but because accepting it means accepting something even worse, that someone else gets to save him. The more you watch Breaking Bad, the more you notice the same pattern. Walter rarely enjoys success. He survives Tuco. Immediately he wants more. He defeats Gus. He's already planning the next move. He earns millions. They are left rotting in a storage unit. Every victory lasts only a moment before he needs another one. That's not how greed works. Greed has a finish line. Walter doesn't. Now think about one of the most famous scenes in the show.
Say my name.
People usually see this as a power move. I think it's something much sadder. Listen to what he actually asks for. Not fear me, respect me, obey me. He asks them to say his name, as if the thing he wanted most wasn't control, but recognition. Proof that he mattered. Proof that he couldn't be ignored anymore. Suddenly everything starts fitting together. Money was never the goal. Money was evidence. The empire wasn't the goal. The empire was evidence. Even Heisenberg wasn't the goal. Heisenberg was evidence. Evidence that Walter White wasn't ordinary. That's why he could never stop. Because achievements can prove what you've done, but they can never prove who you are. And that's exactly what Walter was trying to do. He wasn't building a drug empire, he was trying to build an identity. But there is a moment in the final conversation with Skylar that quietly breaks this entire interpretation. Walter White, stripped of everything, his family, his empire, his identity, finally says the truth.
I did it for me.
At first, it sounds like a confession of selfishness, a simple admission that everything was ego. But what if that's not the real shock? What if the shock is that this is the first time he is actually clear? Not family, not survival, not necessity, no justification at all, just truth.
I liked it. I was good at it. I was alive.
And suddenly something changes in how we understand him. Because notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say he was rich. He doesn't say he was powerful. He doesn't say he was feared. He says something much more precise.
I was good at it.
As if the entire story was never about becoming someone else, but finally hearing the sentence about himself. And here is where everything seems to click. Walter got what he wanted. His name became known. He was feared. He was respected. He became Heisenberg. But what if we were wrong about what that means? Because recognition doesn't complete him, it only confirms him. A confirmation still leaves the real question unanswered. Maybe Walter wasn't chasing recognition at all. Maybe recognition was never the destination. Maybe it was only the test. Walter wasn't asking the world to admire him. He was asking it to answer a question. Was I always someone who mattered? Because if recognition could answer this question, he would have stopped. He had everything he thought he wanted. He had the money, he had the reputation, he had the fear, he had the legend. But none of it gave him the answer he was looking for. So the real mystery isn't why Walter kept chasing recognition. The real mystery is why he believed recognition could tell him who he was. That question is surprisingly simple. Do I matter? Walter spent the entire series trying to answer it. First with money, then with control, then with power, and then with fear. Then with a name that makes people hesitate before speaking it.
Heisenberg.
Each achievement promises the same thing. Now you will know who you are. But achievements can change how the world sees you. They can't tell you what you are worth. Because that's not the kind of question success is capable of answering. That's why the final image of Breaking Bad doesn't feel like victory. It feels like relief. Not because Walter won, but because for the first time in years, he finally stopped trying to prove that his life meant something. Too late. And maybe that's why the series continues to resonate. Not because most of us will ever become criminals, but because many of us quietly carry the same question. If you took away my work, my achievements, my reputation, what would still make me believe that I matter? Walter spent 2 years trying to convince the world that he mattered. The tragedy is, the world eventually agreed. The only person he never managed to convince was himself. And maybe that's what Breaking Bad was really about all along. Not the corruption of a good man, but the desperation of a man who believed his worth had to be earned. Some questions cannot be answered by becoming more, and if you try to solve them that way, you never actually stop.